Badlands, running to Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, welcome everybody to this week's Breaking History. After a week sabbatical from the show and a 2-week sabbatical from me, I'm really happy to be back on with Gordon. How you doing, Gordon?
I'm great, Matt. It's good to see you again. I feel
Yeah,
like it's been like a year since I've talked to you, just because of all the stuff that's happened.
I know, eh? It's what was that? Was that Vladimir Lenin quote? Not endorsing Lenin, but the quote is good. That there's sometimes decades where nothing happens, and then there's decades where very little happens, and then weeks where decades happen, or something. That I'm bastardizing it, but it's something like that. And we're definitely going through one of those very, very dense moments of high density activity internationally, which has historic significance on all points. And we got a lot to talk about. We're going to just shoot the shit a little bit today and free flow a little bit because we're both paying attention to a lot of the same things. But one thing I just noticed here as a technical issue, Rumble doesn't seem to. I got a little message saying it's not streaming to Rumble. Now, if that is that true,
make sure that there's different channels. So it looks like, let me see if we're on.
It doesn't seem as though we are streaming to Rumble right now. It says upcoming when I go to the Rumble channel.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Let me see if
that's not good. Although it's now synced.
It's because you selected Badlands Daily as the hold on one second.
Oh no.
Yeah, hold on.
You can fix that?
I think so. No, I think I can do it. Hold on.
Oh, I think I can do it too. Badlands Media. I got it.
Wait, did you do it?
Yeah, I did it.
I just did it.
Okay.
I may have beat you to it.
All right. Let's just do an update here. See if that works.
Let me see if that.
Okay. Badlands Media. Upcoming. Okay, let's hit play. No. Right, I probably shouldn't.
It says we're live on Rumble, but let me.
Yeah, the words are the right words, but the reality. It's like when you're being told that it's raining outside, but you look out, but from the weather forecast, and you look outside, and there's no rain.
Okay, we're live now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Breaking History. Sorry about that. We just had a what's that guy's name? The guy who calls everyone a pinhead.
I don't know.
Yeah, the guy from Fox News who says we'll do it live. Whatever his name is, irrelevant now. But we'll do it live. Welcome to Breaking History. I'm your host, Gordon McCormick. This is Matt Ehret. We are back after a hiatus last week and 2 weeks without Matt. And as we were saying, just theory of relativity feels like I haven't spoken to Matt in like a year because of so much geopolitical happenings that have occurred since the last time we did this show.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. No, I'm really happy to be back, and yeah, we've got a lot to talk about. We don't have a lot of time to talk about it because I know we both have pretty busy schedules today. So we're going to try to get the show wrapped up within the hour. Definitely, the key points that I think are high on the priority list to just dissect a little bit and talk about are obviously the meetings ongoing in the Asia Pacific. The APEC summit is happening as we speak. Big meetings are going on. Deals are happening both for the public as well as behind the scenes. So we can definitely speculate on some of that. The Arctic has had some major breakthroughs. Things are heating up there. And obviously, I'm curious to get some of your thoughts on the Latin American situation, the Caribbean, some of the saber rattling going on down there, especially in regards to it's just sort of a narrative chaos operation, right? On so many levels. Pertaining to what exactly is the U.S. agenda towards Venezuela. So where would you like to start, Gordon?
Let's start actually with the, since it's been so many weeks since you and I have done the show together, let's start real quick with the Kirill Dmitriev post about the JFK bridge from Alaska, because this is something that you have been you've been at the forefront of this for longer than anybody else. We talked about this on stage at Deadwood, because you and I had been talking about it for so long. And even back then in August, it looked like something like this was going to happen because the summit between Putin and Trump happened back in August while we were doing GART in Deadwood.
Right.
And I'm referring, of course, to this post from October 16th from Kirill Dmitriev, the Russian special envoy to the U.S. for economic development, kind of Scott Bessent's counterpart in Russia. And he says, from the Soviet JFK files released by Representative Luna, Kennedy Khrushchev World Peace Bridge could and should be built between Alaska and Russia at once. He's quoting what is written on the page. This is from there was a JFK file, Soviet JFK file release, and I still don't really understand the full story of how Luna, like Anna Paulina Luna, ended up with this, and she was the one who released it. But yeah, I mean, she's at least taking credit for it. Yeah, and then so in this release is this drawing that you see on the screen. And clearly it says Kennedy Khrushchev World Peace Bridge could and should be built between Alaska and Russia at once. And at once is underlined. And then you clearly can see there is this dotted line that is supposed to represent a road or a railroad that leads clearly to Moscow, and then another one that branches off down towards China. So this is really interesting because if this was from the Kennedy files, then you would think that this was probably from that era, either maybe right before Kennedy was killed or right after. But fascinating that this was actually being discussed back then.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's such an auspicious thing to put out there. Now, again, I don't know exactly how that particular drawing found its way into the JFK files per se, but regardless, if it was, a natural part of these documents or whether it was just slipped in, I've heard so many theories. One of which accounts for this as done by the hand of an American civil engineer, actually, ironically, of Chinese descent, a Chinese-born
Really?
civil engineer. Yeah, I forgot his name. In like 1962, drafting this program, and we know. So I'm not too sure. I'd like to get the drama, the story behind how that emerged, because I know, and I've written a lot about this, as you know. We talked about this, as you pointed out, in Deadwood, and the last direct reference that I had seen prior to Kennedy, that the Kennedy era, was really 1890, actually 1906. 1906 was the last time I saw this directly referenced in official policymaking circles, and that was done by Tsar Nicholas II and his then prime minister, the first prime minister of Russia, Count Sergei Witte, who was sort of this, you could really call him kind of the Abraham Lincoln of Russia, who was a big fan of the American system and applied it under his time as transport and finance minister of Russia in the 1890s, all the way up until the Duma was reorganized and the parliamentary system with a prime minister and everything was created under him in 1905 to try to take the ended the danger of the Bolshevik Revolution that had then gone through its first wave in 1905, right? There was a massive Bolshevik attempt to overthrow the government, a la color revolution back then. And a lot of liberties were given to the people. A lot of civil liberties were granted, which was great. It was a great solution, but obviously it was undermined. It didn't continue after a certain point. And because of that inability to maintain it, the Bolsheviks were given more opportunity and fuel to do their thing. But that being said, Nicholas II, following the advice of Witte, brought in American civil engineers to carry out the study. It was covered by American press, French press, European press at the time for building a tunnel under the Bering Strait or a bridge. It could be a bridge. It was discussed a lot between 1865 and that period, 1906. There was a little bit of a revival of this under FDR, his vice president, Henry Wallace, and Stalin, and Stalin's foreign minister, Molotov, in 1942 to build a highway across the Bering Strait. But, the death of FDR, the emergence of the Cold War, all of these things, McCarthyism, all got in the way, and it kind of went to bed. Now, I didn't know that this idea was cropping back up under JFK. So that's interesting that that Kirill Dmitriev and associates in America, I don't necessarily assume that Anna Polina Luna is necessarily behind the strategy of releasing things, but she's sort of the
She
pretty
certainly
face.
likes to take credit for being behind the
She
strategy
does
of
good.
really, yeah. She's very good at taking credit. And E.H. Kyle says Luna and 2 others from Congress went to the Russian ambassador and just asked for the documents. Luna told the whole story on the Patrick Bet David podcast. Fair enough. I find that story a little hard to believe that they just went and asked the Russian ambassador. He was like, "Oh yeah, like you wanted these? I didn't realize that these were important for the public to know." Yes, of course, have these documents. I find that a little hard to believe. I find that it's probably more likely that they were declassified either a long time ago or very recently, and then strategically deployed. And maybe that is how it happened. Like maybe she was given it and she's like, "Oh, well, I'm going to go post about this on Instagram now." And like she went and posted about it on all of her social medias. But I think she is a useful instrument for getting this stuff out because of the way she uses social media. I mean,
yeah. And I'm just going to put out an addendum because not an addendum, a disclaimer, because while I don't trust her, like you said, there's certain useful purposes that she has. And this is a great example of one, but I always, for me, there's always that feeling of trepidation because I know through my research and, I've made a bunch of documentaries on the hidden head, like we all know about the Great Reset, but the more important and underappreciated aspect of the plan, it involves resetting world religions around a new Gnostic architecture of
ecumenism, right?
Oh no, not that. I mean, well, a version of that is necessary to sort of homogenize all the religions and remove the morality, the moral principles of everybody, and get everybody to just kumbaya under the same like hodgepodge of feelings. Yeah, there's that. But then what they've done as well under this because I like a version of ecumenicism. There's a version of it that I think is good and a version of it that I think is evil. And the version that I think is good involves looking at all world civilizational states and their cultures and beliefs, and looking for the common moral principles that allow us to tap into natural law, love the good, love justice, have self-dignity. And you'll find like it takes on different forms in different religions, but you'll find it if you look for it. And that's a really great basis upon communion with other cultures that are different, but you want to respect their difference and find something beautiful in them that you can work with and even and enjoy that, admire and trust. And then you got this evil version, the way I'm looking at it, which is like look for the most irrational.
From the book of Revelations, where they say that that the Antichrist is gonna merge all the religions into one, and basically like take the throne as the ruler of humanity.
The bad one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Anna Polina Luna is playing a big role in the UFO disclosure operation, and I've gotten a sense in my research that there has been forged documents that they have slipped into the various JFK files that have not yet been released, but I think it will be. I think that there's a preparation of the zeitgeist that's already been underway for a couple of years to prepare us to expect that JFK was killed for such reasons like not that he was trying to end the Cold War and end colonialism and build big projects and revive the American system of Lincoln. No, none of that. But rather that he was trying to expose Area 51, U.S. alien collusion, and so the deep state
Galians, right?
The Galians, yeah, to kill him. Yeah, exactly.
I actually love the idea that this map is a forgery and that it was slipped in there, because I could actually make the argument that was done with like altruistic intent. Like, hey, let's put this in there because then we can deploy the narrative that this bridge was actually something that JFK was working on and he wanted to build. And then it's just like what wonderful timing that Kirill Dmitriev is saying with modern Boring Company technology, and he is tagging Elon Musk's company. This can become a Putin-Trump tunnel connecting the Eurasia and Americas for less than $8 billion. So that is fantastic. So whether I can look at this bicamerally, whether this is a real drawing that actually was in play during JFK's presidency, or this is something that Putin slipped in there because he's like, I want to do this, and this will give us the narrative vehicle to look to deploy it as a historical document that we're gonna bring back, and kind of like a completing the circle of like the Trump JFK storyline. I like it either way. So I'm perfectly okay if this is a forgery. It's a brilliant forgery if it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And very strategic. So.
Well, okay. So on this note here, so let's take a step back here. We'll talk a little bit more about this next week too. I alluded to the fact that I made a documentary. I'm going to encourage people between now and next week to try to watch my documentary. It's 36 minutes long, not too long. It was aired on One American News Network earlier this year, like 8 times, which was fun to get that effect. But the documentary goes through the history of it, the fight to stop it, and the hope to bring back the Bering Strait idea to turn the Arctic into a platform of cooperation instead of war. So we're going to talk more about that next week. And I'll send a link. I'll put a link in the description box of this video, in the comment section, at least, of this video, for people to watch it.
Yeah. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's badass. And I really hope that it gets like recognition, because like I said before, you were the one talking about this way before anybody else was.
In all fairness, I got this from Lyndon LaRouche. So originally in 2006, I first encountered this, and I was challenged to put together a conference with a few of my colleagues in Ottawa to promote this to members of Parliament and the Embassy Corps. And it was called Canada and the Coming Eurasian World was the name of this conference. And it was well attended. We had something like 8 ambassadors, a bunch of staff from various Senate and parliamentary offices came, and we had it was a 2-day event. And it was a great learning experience for me. And I didn't know about this, but again, it was the Canadian branch of the LaRouche organization. And it blew my mind that this was even an idea, let alone something that was being discussed and respected by policymakers from Latin America, even came from Asia. A couple from Russia came. So it was a big mind blower, and it really directed my attention towards looking at Canada and the US and history in a very different way, which is what was behind a lot of my efforts to, over the years after that, reconstruct a better understanding, a better narrative of what is Canada in the context of the battle by the British Empire to destroy and undo 1776, and how Russia saved the USA. So anyway, a lot of that, it was Lyndon LaRouche who really focused that. And he'd been bringing this idea back to life since the 80s, since before you and I were even born. So mad respect to the old late economist. And
well, that's and please put the link to that documentary in the comments so everyone watching on replay can watch it. But yeah, this is a good table setter for this brief conversation we're gonna have, because I do see like the death of JFK as like hitting the pause button on all these things, like the golden age, like the emerging golden age that could have been, and basically we branched off on this alternative timeline because of his death, and have since basically lived under the boot of these terrible demons, these demonic Satan worshiping pedophiles, who are just the worst people who've ever lived, frankly, and they're still very much alive and empowered today, and call themselves Republicans and run the GOP, as well as the Democrat Party, among other institutions and agencies. I see Trump. I've said before, I see Trump as like the spiritual, and I'm certainly not the first person or the only person to say this, but I see Trump as the spiritual successor to JFK, much like I see MBS, Mohammed bin Salman, as the spiritual successor to King Faisal, who was friends with JFK, and JFK gave him a lot of guidance for when he became king of Saudi Arabia. So I think that can kind of start us on this quick little discussion. And I don't have all the articles that we've been talking about.
Before we transition to that, just quick question. As of now, it seems like the planned Budapest summit that was supposed to happen didn't happen. Trump was supposed to meet with Putin. It was canceled on the Trump side. And before we transition to the Middle East and the developments in APAC, what's your take on that? What do you think is behind that?
Oh, yeah, it's a great question. So I think that all these conflicts, like the theme that I'm seeing is that the conflicts that we're seeing, and by conflicts, I'm referring to the narrative disagreements that we're seeing between Trump and other world leaders, is WrestleMania-level theater. I think the Budapest summit is going to happen this is like a replay of the Singapore summit in 2018. And for those who aren't familiar, there was a planned Singapore summit between Trump and Kim Jong-un on June 12th of 2018. And then like May 24th of 2018, Trump put out a tweet saying, Kim Jong-un is fat and stupid. And because he is being a jerk, we're like, I have to cancel the summit. Like, we can't make the summit happen. Sorry, everybody. So they canceled the summit. And then all of a sudden on like June 11th, Trump jumps on the Air Force One and flies to Singapore, and they have the summit June 12th in Singapore. Now that was the famous video of like him and Kim Jong-un walking out in front of the flags and shaking hands and Trump gesturing at the camera. And then a year later, June 2019 was when they met at the DMZ and he walked into North Korea. The Hill, of course, wrote an article about this meeting that's going to happen I think it's probably going to happen on Friday between Kim Jong-un and Trump in South Korea, which is going to be huge. And they, of course, reported that the first time they met was in 2019. That's because, you have a bunch of idiots working for the MSM. But the first time they met was June 12th, 2018. And the premise is that it was canceled narratively, and then it just happened at like totally as scheduled. It was like pretty much nothing changed in terms of scheduling. Trump just tweeted that it was canceled. And so everyone was like, oh, shit. Okay, well, I guess we're not going to do this. And then it happened anyway. So the Budapest summit hasn't been scheduled. It's just been teased as something that's going to happen imminently. And then when these reporters asked Caroline Levitt whose idea it was to go to Budapest, she said, your mom, which was hilarious and the exact level of respect that the MSM reporters deserve. And then Putin actually came out right after that, and Putin said, "Oh, it was Trump." He was asked about it when he was on stage at some other summit he was at, and he said, "Oh yeah, it was Trump's idea. Trump was the one who proposed Budapest." And of course, the reason they're going to Budapest is because of Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban, being a member of NATO, being a member of the EU, he has been he was recognized last year as like the spiritual president leader of the EU when he went and visited Putin in Moscow. Do you remember that summer of 2024? He went to visit Putin, and they were like, "Oh, well, I think Putin even called him the president of the EU."
That was hilarious.
Yeah. So like, it makes perfect sense you're going to go to Budapest, because Budapest is a place that is still recovering from the World War II and still like undoing. They're way further ahead of everybody else in terms of like reversing the gears of time and going back to like where they were before the communist takeover.
So you're hoping that this is just smokescreen and that the meeting might still happen.
Oh, 100%. And now I think I've seen multiple deployments from both the Kremlin and the White House that say, yeah, we're still interested in doing it. Like, so the signal is there that it's going to happen.
And the issue of the threatened sanctions that Scott Bessant announced on Russia, those sanctions didn't actually happen yet. They're just words being thrown out there that they will happen, but it doesn't seem like they have. So do you think that those are also smokescreen and that there are not going to be yet more U.S. sanctions against Russia at this point, or is that something that you're?
I actually think they did happen. I think what they did is, my understanding is that they sanctioned, Trump sanctioned 2 energy companies. He sanctioned Lukoil, which is the second largest oil company in Russia, and then he sanctioned Rosneft, Rosneft, which is the largest oil company in Russia. And I did some research on the differences here. Both of them, Lukoil was formed in 1992, basically out of like the aluminum wars. And the differences between the two, as I understand it, is that Rosneft is much more of like the Kremlin aligned oil company, like state oil company that is used as geopolitical leverage and is used by the Kremlin and Putin basically to wield Russian power around the world and like negotiate deals. And it very much operates with like along the lines of like the political desires and political agenda of Vladimir Putin. Whereas Lukoil is actually very Western aligned and it operates as like a totally independent corporation that has almost no state influence or state ownership. The guy who founded it, whose name escapes me at the moment, is Azerbaijani and ran it for 29 years from 1992 until 1920, or from 1993, I think is when it was like officially incorporated, until 2022 when he resigned. And he resigned, like when he resigned, Lukoil apparently remained totally politically neutral throughout its entire existence, like under this guy. And then when Putin invaded Ukraine, they did like a very rare press release where they commented on something political and said, we really want to see peace. This is bad. We should not be doing this. And then he resigned. But the way he is presented, this founder who's Azerbaijani, he's presented as like a Putin ally. But even though he has never really politically spoken on anything, he's very neutral, as is Lukoil. Now, Lukoil actually announced yesterday that because of these sanctions, they're now
going to sell off. They're going to sell off
they're selling off all their subsidiaries, which I think is a pincer move. Because if you look at, like, I was looking in last night to all of their subsidiaries are all in Western Europe. They're in Switzerland. They are in bed all over the place with the West. And like, unlike Rosneft, like I said, is Kremlin aligned.
Well, but who will be buying up those Lukoil assets? And they do have stuff in Iraq too. They say here, I was just looking it up, 75% stake in Iraq's Korna 2 oil field, one of the biggest oil fields, Bulgaria, Romania, but Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan too. It has gas condensed projects. So yeah, like who would be purchasing those, do you think?
I don't know. It's a really good question, and maybe the answer is that maybe we're seeing the decentralization of these big corporations, right? That kind of like wield all this power and control all this oil. Who knows? But it is interesting that like the dynamic between those two, where it appears that Lukoil is globalist aligned. That's the way that the AI, when I was having the conversation with AI about it. AI basically explained to me that Lukoil is globalist aligned, while Rosneft is Kremlin Putin aligned. That's the difference between the two. And basically, Rosneft is not going to be impacted by these sanctions because Russia is basically already insulated from sanctions because of the decoupling they've done over the past 3 years, which Trump was there's a clip that we've been playing for the past week where Trump was asked about this, where a reporter said to Trump, I think last Thursday, well, Putin says that he's not worried about this because this isn't going to impact him at all. And Trump said, well, I'm really glad Putin feels that way. I'm glad Putin doesn't think that these sanctions are going to impact him at all. And then now we're learning that Lukoil, which is a international conglomerate, like an international corporation, is divesting selling off all of its subsidiaries. To me, this is like signal of going after these big globalist technocrats. By the way, the founder of Lukoil is identifies as a technocrat. So these are like technocrats, globalists, those people. So no love lost, I don't think, for Lukoil and their operations. Now, what's interesting is that like when we look at the narrative, look at the story out this morning. U.S. is pulling troops out of Europe, and NATO nation's defense chief. Washington has informed bloc members, NATO, it is shifting its focus to Asia. Romania's Uonut Mostanu has said that is a hell of a name.
I don't even try names like that anymore.
That is a hell of a name.
You're more courageous than I am.
Yeah, but it's I'll just plow through it and trip all over myself. The United States is scaling back its military presence in Europe as part of a broader strategy shift, Romania's defense minister announced on Wednesday. So again, why does Trump do this WrestleMania theater with these people that I can demonstrate, and many of us can demonstrate he's actually like collaborating with? Here's why. So here's a perfect example. Oh, well, China's a really big threat. Like Xi has been a very naughty boy. So we're going to pull all of our military assets out of Europe and send them over to Asia because we're going to have to go fight a war in Asia now. Sorry, Europe. Good luck with Putin. LOL. See you later. As you know, NATO is sitting here puffing out its chest, trying to start a war with Vladimir Putin.
All right.
So the timing of that is very, very, very interesting. And then right here, like I just see in the margin, from Putin. Moscow could pause operations against encircled Ukrainian units. Russia is willing to allow journalists into the area and suspend combat operations for as long as they are there, the president has said. So he's basically saying like, oh yeah, I mean, we can kill all these people if we need to, or we can just pause and let the journalists go in there and kind of like report on what's happening. Total control, like Russia's in total control here. And then here's another story in the margin: Ukraine will never retake lost territories. NATO members defense chief. This is Italy's Guido Crosetto. So they got like more signal out of Italy. Italy has demonstrated it's definitely among the most based European.
Definitely, yeah, that's a major break from the narrative, coming from a major NATO official as well. That's very interesting. So hopefully, let's keep our eyes peeled on that one. The media is trying to really like hype this up. The fact that there's like certain missiles that have been provided by the U.S. and the fact that the Keith Kellogg operation or proposal to go for some sort of a weird frozen conflict has obviously been rejected many times by the Russians, by Lavrov, who just said there's no way that that's going to work. So they're trying to make it seem like there's a lot more disorganization. But then when you see these sorts of signal, it does imply that there's more of an agreement behind the scenes to try to find some form of a resolution than we're being told. So that's good to hear. And before we transition away to the APEC summit and the Middle East more broadly, maybe let's listen to a word from today's sponsor, Benson.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that.
Yeah. All right, so let me just run this thing here. All right. Welcome to Benson Honey Farms, where every jar is pure gold. Benson's Honey is excited to be back on Badlands Media with their latest 2025 honey harvest, straight from their farms in Nebraska. While they've been busy working to improve our state politics from the ground up, they never forgot the importance of sharing the best honey around. Did you know honey isn't just a sweet treat? It's a natural medicine, perfect for alleviating allergies, soothing upset stomachs, or as a delicious natural sweetener for baking. Benson honey is never heated, ensuring you receive it in its pure, raw form, full of natural goodness. At Benson Honey Farms, quality and purity is top priority, and they're committed to providing the finest honey from the hive to home. Join the supportive community and enjoy a special offer. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/honey and use promo code Badlands for 15% off your purchase. Benson Honey Farms. Savor the authentic taste of Nebraska and support America's first business. Follow on Facebook at Benson Honey Farms. All right.
So there's an interesting thought here from E.H. Kyle that I think is worth just sharing, and that is, let's see if I can find it. I just saw it on Rumble, but let me make sure I can find it in StreamYard. And if I can't, okay, here it is. Remember when Tucker went to interview Putin and Putin gave him a bunch of documents to bring back? What if the documents actually came back along with others? With Tucker, that's an interesting thought too. Like, what if I do remember that he gave a bunch of I remember Putin was being very disrespectful to Tucker. Like he called him out for being like, you applied to the CIA but didn't get in, right? Mm-hmm. And then he said, he said, don't worry, I'm gonna send you back with a bunch of documents, not translated, of course. You can figure that out on your own. I remember like laughing that Putin was like, I'm going to give you a bunch of Russian documents. And Tucker was like, oh, okay, well, thanks, I guess. That would be really interesting if the documents that they gave him were just all in Russian, and then slipped in there was like the JFK files.
That'd be a funny one.
Yeah, but the timing of that is like topical because of this Nick Fuentes interview that Tucker did. Released on Monday night, which has the Zionist diaspora in an absolute like hysterics right now. Like I've seen them act like absolute jackasses before, but they have taken it now to a level where they're saying that like Tucker should be expelled from the Republican Party and anybody who supports Tucker should be expelled from the Republican Party. I see Ben Shapiro's going after Steve Bannon and going after like the heart of MAGA, like the MAGA base, and basically saying that we are a threat to the Republican Party. I mean, I would agree with him. I think that is our intent. Our intent as MAGA is to be a threat to the Republican Party as Ben Shapiro sees it. And that kind of takes us to, before we actually go to Asia and the Middle East, let's go to Venezuela and Colombia, because, I would encourage everyone, since this is going to be kind of a shorter show, we're not going to have time to do the full dig, but go to Badlands Daily from yesterday and listen to the second hour, because I basically spent the whole second hour talking about geopolitics, but mainly talking about Colombia. And so I think I've run through with you a little bit how Maduro has been, I think, orchestrating, or at least providing he orchestrated lawfare against a lot of these commodity asset trading companies, oil, gas, diamonds. Back in 2017, he initiated all that. And we've seen countless executives from these companies be prosecuted in recent years. I think that corporate oligarchy represents one half of the cartel. The other half of the cartels, of course, would be like the actual traffickers, like the drug traffickers, the human traffickers, the gun runners, like those people, the more traditional, like Pablo Escobar types, who actually operate in Colombia, not in Venezuela, as people like Colonel McGregor have been pointing out, that there aren't really actually any real cartel operations in Venezuela. It's all really in Colombia. There's a little bit of cross-border action, but they're all based out of Medellin. Like that's kind of like mainstream culture in America. That's, they make Netflix movies and shows about that, right? But this guy, Gustavo Petro, was sanctioned this past weekend by Trump. And they said, in a statement on Friday's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said that since Petro took office in 2022, cocaine production in Colombia has exploded to the highest rates in decades, flooding the United States and poisoning Americans. And so I went and looked into this, because I had already been kind of tracking Gustavo Petro at this point, because I listened to his UN speech earlier this month at the UN General Assembly, where he said that that he had arrested more cartel members than anybody. I think the number he gave was like 70,000 or something like that. And so I was like, well, that's kind of weird. So I went and dug on this, and what I found, Matt, is that this guy, like Scott Bessent, I think is doing kayfabe here, of course. This guy he's absolutely right. In the past 11 months, look at these stories. This is from March 29th, 2025. Colombia arrests Medellin cartel founder Carlos Leader. That Carlos, like Leader, I think I'm saying his name right. He's like any television show or movie about Pablo Escobar. This guy is like a central figure. So he was arrested and extradited to the United States. Colombia to extradite drug kingpin Otoniel to the U.S. Colombia arrests over 200. That is April of 2022. So that's 3 years ago when he came into power. Here's May 6, 2025. Colombia arrests over 200 suspected members of a cartel accused of paying recruits $3,500 for dead police officers. Here's a separate story from a month later. Colombia arrests another 198 suspected Clan de Golfo members. That's the Gulf Clan. The Gulf Clan is the largest cocaine cartel operating in Colombia now. It's no longer the Medellin cartel. And we'll circle back to them in a minute. But real quick, here is a post from February of this year. And here are the generals of the Colombian military holding a press conference where they're talking about they are disclosing to the public that the ELN is the National Liberation Army. It's a guerrilla army that has operated in Colombia since 1964. It was inspired by all of the people who started it were trained in Cuba. And it was inspired by Che Guevara and Pablo Escobar. And now these generals back in February held this press conference, and they said the ELN, that's the acronym for it, is actually run by the Mexican Sinaloa cartel. So the Mexican Sinaloa cartel actually is backing this Colombian-based guerrilla group. And the reason for its existence, according to them, is to safeguard the trafficking routes for the cocaine from Colombia to Mexico.
On that note, President Petro, back in March of this year, he gave a really hard-butting speech where he pointed out, I just got the headline here, Colombia's president says FARC dissident guerrillas are private army of Mexican cartels. And the FARC is like one of the biggest narco-terrorist groups in North America. And that's actually the picture of the second in command, who was he was murdered a few years ago, but the second in command of the FARC, embracing the then president of the New York Stock Exchange in 1999. We called it the Grasso Embrazo, because the guy's name was something last name Embrazo.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. Can you send me that? Can you send me that?
Yeah, for sure. That's from an EIR article, and I'll send you the headline as well, which I'll just share it right here. But it just falls right into it exactly, that it's these Mexican cartels that are protected and really groomed, organized by the international City of London, Wall Street, deep state structures that groomed and developed these agencies as part of their global mafia crime syndicates, international, that are actually operational within other South American countries, and a big one being Colombia, because their cocaine is just, there's so much cocaine. And that's really the character and the pedigree of these things. So it's for everybody who's being fed all of this propaganda that it's China behind all of our drug problems. It's like, no, you gotta go to these guys. This is Wall Street. This is the City of London. This is the Mexican cartels.
Well, and I'm actually speculating now, and this is just pure speculation, that I wonder if all this fentanyl that we're being that is out and about, and I have several friends who've died of fentanyl overdoses in the past couple of years, so this is personal to me, but I wonder if this is all actually being manufactured in Colombia by these guys, because it doesn't make sense. Like the story we're being told, I've heard a few different versions. I've been told that it's manufactured in China, and then it's sent to Mexico, where it's cut with the drugs and then shipped across the border. Okay. I've also heard more broadly that it's manufactured in Canada, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So you're saying they're manufacturing it in Canada, they're then shipping it across the Canadian border, through the United States, across the Mexican border, into Mexico, cutting it with the drugs, and then shipping it back across the border. I mean, that seems like a lot of work when you could just, when you have these jungles in Colombia that you've been refining cocaine in for decades, why wouldn't you just go there and just set up your operations there, right? So I wonder, I've wondered that for a long time, is if actually in Central America is where a lot of this fentanyl is being produced. But getting back to this, what, like, the most damning that I've heard, that I've found out, is that Gulf clan group that I was telling you about, they have been in negotiations with them for a while now, but specifically in September, they went to Qatar, and the Colombian government is in peace talks now with Clan del Golfo. And this is a very hard story to find. I've gone everywhere and tried to track it down. I actually had to go to the official government website of Qatar. Here's the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are actually reporting on it, because everywhere else it's all written in Spanish, and then you translate it and it doesn't quite translate cleanly. Here's the state of Qatar. September 18th, 2025, the state of Qatar announces its mediation in the peace-building process between the government of the Republic of Colombia and the self-proclaimed Guatanista Army of Colombia, or EGC. And it goes on to say that the aim of advancing reconciliation and finding sustainable solutions to the chronic challenges posed by armed groups in Colombia, including disarmament and peace building. So they are in Qatar negotiating the cessation of operations, the end of the Colombian cartels. This is after years of rounding all these people up, arresting them, killing them, and sometimes, but mostly arresting them and extraditing them to the United States, where I presume they're being prosecuted. None of that's being reported by our media, so we can't possibly know. You know, state media in the United States won't report on it because we live in a we live in a occupied country. But it's very interesting. And then you come back to here, and Lindsey Graham is sitting here like giddy, because more is coming. Stay tuned. Like, we're gonna go kill people. Like, it's gonna be exciting. And then we get this story from yesterday and the day before. 2 days ago, the Miami Herald reports that Venezuela claims that it has captured a CIA group, accuses the U.S. of plotting a false flag attack. And then yesterday, a report comes out that the U.S. tried to recruit Maduro's pilot for a kidnapping plot. They tried to pay off the pilot, and they actually gave a name of who this was. The outlet claimed that Homeland Security agent Edwin Lopez met with Maduro's pilot, General Bitner Villegas, in the Dominican Republic in 2024 and offered him a bunch of money so that, hey, the next time you're flying him somewhere, just turn the plane and come somewhere where we can arrest him. Come to a country that's willing to arrest him. That's all you got to do. You do that and we'll give you like a bunch of money. And the guy said no. So, that's really interesting. I've been speculating, Matt, for like the past month or two, that I wonder if we're going to see Maduro get like arrested and maybe like extracted, and then the U.S., because now Trump is openly saying, yes, I have allowed I've authorized the CIA to do clandestine operations in Colombia to overthrow their government, and I'm considering land strikes against the jungles, like where the cartel are operating. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, wait a minute, you authorized clandestine, secret CIA operations to overthrow the Venezuelan government, but you just announced to the whole world that you authorized these clandestine operations to overthrow the Venezuela. Do you understand how stupid this all sounds? And then you back all the way up to a few weeks ago when Korea, like literally the day after Trump got the peace deal with Palestine with Gaza and Israel, Hamas and Israel signed. The next day, the Oslo Nobel Committee announced that they weren't giving Trump the Nobel Peace Prize. They're going to give it to Maria Corina Machado. Yeah. Maria. I actually have been calling her Maria Corona Machado. And I've been doing this thing. I need to post them, but I've been doing this thing where I go and I find the images of her like standing on cars, like with the bullhorn, like doing her little rallies. And then I run it through AI and I turn it into like a Cinco de Mayo party and put some Corona, and turn it into like a Corona like magazine ad. And I actually think like a better name for her is Maria Corona Machado. Find your beach, or maybe find your beachhead. Maybe that would be her new slogan for her campaign.
Well, she definitely qualifies as a potential weapon of mass destruction.
Find your beachhead, Maria Corona Machado.
So you had said one thing though in a few places, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. Again, you had posited the possibility that an arrest of Maduro might be in the cards as part of this cleanup of the cartel operation. I'm not necessarily with you on that, but I'm curious to get your logic and a bit more refinement. Could you expound upon that hypothesis a bit more?
I'm sorry, the screen went out on my end. Can you repeat that last part?
Oh, yeah. No, you've mentioned before that you're within the realm of possibilities in your mind would be the possible arrest of Maduro as a way to sort of remove him for a time while I suppose these corrupt narco terrorists and cartels are being cleaned up. And I'm not fully with you on that, but I'm curious to get more refinement in how you're thinking. Like what is your logic behind that hypothesis that you've put out there?
Well, that was something that I was thinking about like a month ago. And then that was right before I found, like, I stumbled onto Gustavo Petro. I heard his UN speech, and then I started doing a dig on him. And now that I know that Colombia has been rounding all these guys up in negotiations with the cartel already, it seems kind of superfluous for them to extract Maduro, because I'm not even sure if these kinetic operations are going to be necessary now. Maybe they are. Like maybe they've taken out the leadership. Maybe they've taken out like the key nodes, and there's still a lot of just ground like boots on the ground guys that need to be wiped out. Sleeper cells, that kind of thing. I don't know, like maybe. But it seems like the Venezuelan government, like the military, has been deployed and mobilized 25,000 troops in one little area. Seems like they could probably do that without the US.
Right. And also now you have the factor too, where Putin and Maduro just signed a deal as well, a defense deal. It's not necessarily a mutual defense pact. That's not part of the deal, but there's definitely a lot more organized collaboration now on defense, on a variety of things. So Putin has definitely brought Russia into more of a sphere of responsibility. Now, again, based on what we've seen with some of the shenanigans on the Syria front, that's not necessarily 100% guarantee of salvation necessarily. However, it definitely is a step up from where it was a week ago. And then you have also President Petro meeting with the MBS. which is something you've posted on, you've commented on. Can you say something about the importance of that in your mind?
Absolutely. And that's, I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, like the security deal that they announced, I think 2 days ago between, or maybe it was over the weekend, between Russia and Venezuela reminds me a lot of the security deal that was signed between Russia and Iran, like the day before Trump came back into office. It felt like posturing, just like it's like a shot across the bow from Putin, just saying, "Hey guys, I'm letting you know that I'm here and I care about this. You better you better back down." Not saying that to Trump, but saying that like to like the Lindsey Grahams of the world, that Putin and Russia have Maduro's back. And what's interesting about the MBS thing is because Gustavo Petro has been going hard in the paint against Zionism and hard in the paint. Like during his UN speech that I mentioned before, he also called for an international force to be assembled against Israel, where he said, "Hey, we should assemble an international peace force and send them into Gaza to fight basically to fight the IDF and defend the people of Gaza." And then when Maria Corina Machado was given the Nobel Peace Prize, he posted about this letter that I don't know if you saw that, but I don't know if we did a show after that or not, but he posted about this letter that she had sent in 2018 to Netanyahu, asking Netanyahu to help her overthrow the Maduro government.
Right.
And he said, "Why would you, like the IDF are a bunch of genocidal maniacs? Why would you want to bring that to the Bolivar region of South America?" Like Bolivar meaning like the northern part of South America. Like shame on you, man, for doing this. So he's been going hard against Zionism and being like, the Zionists are evil. Israel is evil. Netanyahu is evil. These people are all the worst. And then all of a sudden we get this picture posted today by, this is Gustavo Petro's X account. And he says, "The most important meeting that will continue tomorrow with His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz Al Saud." And this appears to be in Riyadh, as far as I can tell. So that means that he would be in the Middle East meeting with them. So, you know, I'm very interested to see what's going to come out of this, because the fact that he is sitting there going hard in the paint against Netanyahu, hard in the paint against Israel, lots of speculation, negative speculation around Saudi Arabia about their relationship with Netanyahu, that they're selling out the Palestinians, selling out the Gazans, which I don't believe at all. I've never believed that. I think it's really more so of a pincer move against Netanyahu. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that over the past 3 years, we have seen like Zionism be exposed as the evil ideology that it is. I mean, 3 years ago, it was worshipped like the beast from the Book of Revelations, in my opinion. I think that when people talk about in the Book of Revelations, when they talk about people marveling at the beast being the Antichrist, I look at something like Zionism. And Trump even said this, I think, in a speech a few days ago. He said, you know, back in the day, anyone who criticized Israel, it's like your political career was over. He's like, now it's like if you support Israel, your political career is over. Which is an interesting observation, and I think actually pretty accurate, because that is how much the zeitgeist, the Overton window on Israel has shifted that violently, that quickly. But yeah, I mean, 3 years ago, I think that Israel and Zionism was widely worshipped around the world by Christian Zionists, quote unquote, and that actually brings us to a place where I think we should play this clip now, because I think this clip is a good clip. And you know, I have real consternation when it comes to Nick Fuentes. I actually speculated in that in a private chat back on like September 20th. I said, you know, I wonder if we're going to see, this is when Nick Fuentes like said, well, Israel maybe isn't that bad, and I would certainly side with the Israelis over the Muslims. Like he told Patrick Bet-David that. And then he started suddenly becoming this mainstream figure. And I was like, I really wonder if we're going to see Nick Fuentes start like speaking out against a sovereign alliance figure. Maybe not, you know, Iran or Qatar, like the targets of Laura Loomer and Mark Levin. Maybe somebody like, I don't know, Nicolas Maduro. And then, of course, he did like I saw a clip he did a few days ago where he said it's actually not a neocon position to want to kill Nicolas Maduro and overthrow the Venezuelan government. It is an America first position. And I'm like, whoa, bro. Like, no, like, no kid. No. But, and then Tucker's Tucker. Like, Tucker's an enigma. Like Putin said, applied to the CIA and didn't get in. But this comment here from Tucker, I think, is aligns exactly with what I've thought for quite some time.
I don't see anything. Oh, hold on.
Wait. Did I not? I didn't add it.
Here it is. Here it is. Oh, yeah, right. Go to the beginning again.
How do you explain Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and there are a lot like that. John Bolton. I mean, I've known them all. George W. Bush, like Karl Rove. I mean, all people I know personally who I've seen like be seized by this brain virus, and they're not Jewish. Most of them are self-described Christians, and then the Christian Zionists who are, well, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that? Right. And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody. Because like, what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian. That's why. So I don't, like, why not? Like, I'm pissed at the neocons, very pissed. I've said that a million times. I've been mad since December of 2003 when I went to Iraq. And so, like, I went and asked straightforward questions to Ted Cruz, because that seemed like there's a sitting senator who's like serving for Israel by his own description. He seemed like a worthy target. I'm not going after MTG, who's like the most sincere like, why not go after Ted Cruz? I don't understand.
Yeah, and how do you? I think what he was asking him and I haven't seen the full interview yet, but I think what he was asking him was, why are you attacking MTG and not people like Ted Cruz? Which I think is a fair question, because MTG is like the only person in Congress who's actually calling out Netanyahu. Actually, a correction. Anna Paulina Luna is now calling out Netanyahu because it's politically safe to do so. But a year plus ago, when Netanyahu came to Congress, she ran up and fangirled with him and got a picture and was like, the greatest leader ever, Netanyahu. So and that was when Netanyahu was asking for U.S. support to go to a war with Iran. And I'm just like, it's like, okay, APL, like, let's stop fangirling over the guy who's demanding us to go start yet another war in the Middle East. How about that? So again, like, I don't trust her either, because I think her judgment is horrific at best, if not being maybe motivated by other things. But I digress. Point is that I do agree with what Tucker said there, that I think it's like Christian Zionism is heresy. It doesn't at all align with doctrine, whether you're looking at Jewish doctrine or Christian doctrine. All of it is heresy. It's all a lie. We've been lied to by the most powerful forces in the world, have lied to us and indoctrinated us over generations to believe something that is patently false. And how many people have died as a result of those lies? Tens of millions. I mean, maybe more. It's a disgrace. So,
well, yeah, I mean, my whole shtick is to try to get people to understand and to think about ancient mystery cults managing from above the various narratives, including major political, religious narratives that don't exclude Christian Zionism, the rapture theology of Darby, Sabbatianism, Frankism. A lot of these things, the entire Kabbalah network as a whole, you can find rooted in the religious engineering of the ancient high mystery religions of Mithra, of Cybele, Demeter, of Attis and Isis, and the high priesthood that was managing the world as a giant cave, controlling the shadows back in the ancient times. And they didn't go away when, even though Christianity took a lot of the wind out of their sails of success, they didn't go away. Surprise, surprise. A lot of them went underground. A lot of them infiltrated various Christian orders. A lot of them infiltrated various Jewish orders. That some of them had already been there. And it was colluded together. Some of them were also there behind Muslim esoteric orders and Zoroastrian esoteric orders, but they're all the same cult at the end of the day that wants to merge the profane and the sacred into unity, right? Merging of moral opposites into
unity.
Yeah. That's the the evil ecumenicism. They're all about that. Whether it's the more modern incarnation of the Rosicrucians and the Theosophists, or their left-hand path shadow of the Jesuits, which work together as the tyrannical sort of hand that then forces a Luciferian rebellion against the very predictable, constrictive nature of a Habsburg Jesuit-run iron fist, and you control then the rebelliousness of those who seek liberty, but then you redirect liberty towards licentiousness and effectively like Crowleyism. The do what thou wilt will be the whole of your law is as the new freedom. So that's the game. It's just, rigidity and hedonistic freedom, and both sides. It's a giant joke. It's a sick joke, and they'll infiltrate and do it in every religion to undermine the religions from within. So that's my thing. But definitely a lot of this is coming to the surface, and I appreciate that there's people now have more mental muscle to lift heavy ideas that they were formerly not able to lift. So we'll see where this goes. I'm enlivened though by a lot of this. But before we go on, let's do one more commercial.
I just want to point out that I agree. Let's do the commercial, and then I think what we'll do is we'll touch on the Asia thing. Like we'll just say
I can go probably. I can honestly push it for maybe 20 more minutes if you want.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think we can do that, and then we can maybe do a full recap, because there's going to be some big things that are going to happen tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, I think. But before you do the commercial, I just wanted to point out I jest about the unity thing, because I think when some people say unity, what they really mean is capitulation and silence, and you're seeing that now being weaponized against like people who are sympathetic or support like what Tucker Carlson is doing, and like what the message that Tucker Carlson said in that clip right there is they're basically saying, well, you people don't want to be part of the Republican Party, then you don't want to unite with us because you want to criticize what we're doing. How dare you? Like, we need unity right now. We don't need division. And it's like, no, brother. As Jesus said, I did not come to bring unity. I came to bring division. Two brothers against three brothers and all that. I want people to question everything. And I definitely think that's the spirit of this age, is that we need to question everything, and we need to argue and debate things in earnest. So unity, I think, is a poisonous word.
Yeah, consensus. Like it's weird, right? Like the found, and then I'll read the ad, but but like that's the basis upon which any viable republic has vitality and hope for existence, is that there's a faith that we can have differences and use God-given reason to talk through differences, to have debate, to lean into discomfort, and not just like look for the security blanket of always being right, of just having all the right answers, of always being in a safe space where you don't have to be offended emotionally. That's not how republics, the idea of a Republican form of government is premised on the individual who can work through ideas to challenge each other with the love of truth at the end of the day, that's animating all parties towards getting something better as an outcome of what you had going into it, and knowing that iron sharpens iron. So yeah, like consensus, this idea of running away from debate, running away from diversity into some form of weird homogeneity is a system for slaves and feudal serfs and nothing more. But yeah, so
totally agree. All
right, one ad coming up here. Oops. All right, here we are. Okay, so let me read this. Maha yourself with supplements that don't suck, from Conscious Strength, founded by Badlands' very own Jordan Sather in 2019. Conscious Strength products are made in America and won't break your bank, unlike the other online brands. Their lineup includes collagen for strengthening joints and hair. Electrolytes to get rid of those cramps. Green powder that tastes good and mixes easy. Shilajit gummies. Methylene blue, zeolite, and more. Flip the finger to pharma, be your own doctor, and get supplements that you can trust from Conscious Strength. Go to badlandsmedia.tv/strength to shop now. One more time, badlandsmedia.tv/strength. Links will be in the description below. All right, here we go. All right, so we got a few more minutes left here. Got probably 15, 20 more minutes. Things are going on in APEC in South Korea. You want to talk about any of that?
Yeah. So, I think maybe next week, depending, I mean, assuming that like 10 years worth of like geopolitical happenings doesn't happen between now and next Wednesday, which could easily be the case. Maybe we should try to do like a more in-depth recap of all the different deals that are being signed. But thus far, I think we can recap what has happened, at least at a high level, and then looking forward to what we're going to see here unfold tomorrow and Friday. So it starts with, I mean, first Trump went to Qatar, and I've played the clip on a few shows now, so I don't think we need to play it again. But he refuels in Qatar. This is as like all the Zionist influencers, all the Trump, a lot of them Trump surrogates like Laura Loomer and Mark Levin are just like frothing at the mouth already on X about Qatar being the greatest enemy America has ever faced, and we have to all like send our children to die in a war. I'm being facetious here, but that's effectively what their messaging is. That Qatar is the enemy of America, and then so Trump takes it upon himself to go land in Qatar to refuel. Could have easily refueled in midair, but instead goes to lands Qatar. The Emir Tamim comes out to the airport. Trump notes that this is the first time he's ever done this for anybody. Gets on the plane and just sits there and hangs out with Trump like on camera while they're refueling the plane. And Tamim is like, yeah, there was no way I'm going to let you come and leave without me coming and saying hello. You're my guy. And Trump like grabs him by the hand and does this little like gesture, like embrace gesture. And he's like, I love you, man. And he's like, I love you too, bro. And this is a callback to the Article 5 deal that we signed with Qatar last month after Israel bombed Doha. Which I think is kind of like a signal as to what's coming, and also maybe a little bit of a proof that maybe the Abraham Accords weren't designed to protect the Arabs, or weren't designed to protect Israel from the Arabs, but rather to protect the Arabs from Israel. That's what I've speculated since 2022, and I maintain that. I think that's why the Abraham Accords were written, and that's why Netanyahu did not want them to be signed, and he tried to back out the night before. So from Qatar, we go to Malaysia. In Malaysia, let's pull up Google Maps because I think that's probably the easiest way to talk about it. We actually Trump signs a series of deals there that haven't really been that reported, honestly. None of this I don't think is getting the attention that it actually deserves, but that's just typical propagandist media in a captured state captured society such as ours. But we have Malaysia. Now, what's interesting to me, Matt, is that the way that this 20-point peace deal comes together in the Middle East is that the week of the UN General Assembly, when Trump goes to give the speech in New York, he then afterwards sits down with a bunch of Muslim leaders. It's mostly the Arabs plus Turkey plus Pakistan and Indonesia. And I remember thinking, I was like, why the hell is Indonesia there? And then Trump's talking about how great the Indonesian president is. And I'm like, all right, well, I mean, Indonesia is a Muslim country, fair enough. But, I mean, it's already kind of a stretch Pakistan being there. Like, why is Indonesia there? Well, look at this. So now we've signed, like we're in Malaysia. We're being hosted by Malaysia. We're signing a bunch of rare earth mineral deals that are shifting the balance of power of how the rare earth mineral market is going to look. It's totally reshaping how rare earth minerals are going to be refined and processed moving forward. And the two islands that make up the Strait of Malacca, which is the one of three strategic choke points in maritime trade, the other two being Panama Canal and the Suez Canal, Malaysia and Indonesia. So I think that is very telling. And then, of course, you have Singapore right here, where Trump did the Singapore summit with Kim Jong-un in 2018. Along with the rare earth deals, which I think it was Malaysia that signed one. I want to say it was. I need to pull up the list, but I
thought Thailand didn't they sign one too?
Thailand signed one. I think it was Malaysia signed one. It might have been Indonesia that signed one as well. But multiple countries signed rare earth mineral deals with the United States that fundamentally change the way that rare earth is going to be mined, but then also more importantly refined, because China basically has had a monopoly on that almost for quite some time. But also we got the peace deal signed between Thailand and Cambodia. And the important thing that I can point out about the Thailand-Cambodia conflict is just like every other conflict that Trump has resolved, except for the one in Africa between the DRC and Rwanda, the main weapon system that's being used there is the Tavor rifle, which is a very difficult rifle to procure. It's made by Israel Weapon System, or I'm sorry, Israel Weapon Industry. It's the weapon that's exclusively used by the IDF. Therefore, I'm pretty sure you have to go through you certainly have to go through the Israeli government, but I think you also have to go through the IDF to get it, certainly in mass. I have a friend who owns one, and he said getting it, like, he had to call in a lot of favors to get his hands on just one, but to order a bunch, I mean, you have to know people in Israel. Every single conflict, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, India, Pakistan, Cambodia, Thailand, all of them, the militants, the ones who are attacking, are using Tavor rifles. So I think that's very significant, that basically you have Israel starting fires all over the world, and then Trump coming in behind him and putting out the fires. So from Malaysia, we then go to Japan. And again, I'm just doing high level stuff here. We get another rare earth mineral deal signed with Sanae Takaichi. And Takaichi is a fascinating figure because not only is she apparently she's like a metal, like she was like a drummer in a metal band up until kind of recently, I think.
It was a metal band, a heavy metal band?
Yeah, it was like a metal band. It was like
really?
my understanding is that it was like a metal band. Yeah. I mean, I haven't heard the music, so I don't know, but that's the rumor, is that it's a metal band. But anyway, I mean, a drummer in a band, that's kind of badass.
All right.
She's the political protege of Shinzo Abe. Shinzo Abe, of course, was like Donald Trump's best friend during his first term, and assassinated during the Biden term. I speculate that maybe he's still alive, but I tend to doubt it. But who knows? You never know. But I think what's really interesting about the meeting is that she nods to this by gifting him. So she gifts him this right here is a signed golf bag from Hideki Matsuyama, excuse me, who is he won the Masters in 2021, best Asian golfer in the world. And then Shinzo Abe's putter, which like is presented almost like a samurai sword, the way it's like.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, that's classy. It's got a funny class.
Very classy. And then here's a picture just of the putter, Shinzo and Trump at Mar-a-Lago playing. And they were always playing golf, like during the first term. Like the media would always rag on him for this. And then Trump makes this comment.
I know that you are increasing your military capacity very substantially, and we've received your orders for a very large amount of new military equipment, and you know that we make the best military equipment in the world, the jets, the missiles, and everything else, and hopefully we don't have to use them very much, if at all. But we appreciate that order, and we very much appreciate the trade. We're going to do tremendous trade together, I think more than ever before. We're just signing a new deal, and it's a very fair deal, and we look forward to welcoming Japan into the United States and a continuation. And it's something that everybody is very, very excited about.
Yeah, and so the significance here, I mean, the cynics will all say, well, isn't this like posture, like warmongering and military-industrial complex? And I think you're missing the point. This is fixing what was put into place as a result of World War II, where a security deal was signed that basically said that Japan was not allowed to have a standing army or navy. They were allowed to have a very small reaction force. And then the United States, the U.S. Navy would basically serve as their military and their security guarantee. And so as a result, Pacific Command, I think, like absorbs much of the military budget. And we always have an aircraft carrier. I think when we sent those aircraft carriers to the Mediterranean because of like the whole Iran situation, that was the first time ever, like since World War II, that we didn't have a aircraft battle fleet battle group in the Pacific, like around Japan. That is how much commitment the U.S. military has invested into the security of Japan, but really Southeast Asia, this entire area that you see on the map here. That like the security of this whole region not only the South China Sea, but really more importantly, Japan and Korea, because South Korea is our number one trade partner. And so the fact that we're now like, it certainly seems way, and the person who started this trend, by the way, the Japanese leader who started the trend was Shinzo Abe. He started buying military equipment from Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump's continuing that trend with Takaichi, and she is, I think, going to establish a Japanese military, which then will allow the U.S. military to pull out of the Pacific and come home, and then we can hopefully shrink our budget and stop spending, $1 trillion a year on our military, which is insane.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, because right now there's how many U.S. troops are in Japan right now? It's like well over 50,000. I think it's like 58,000 last time I checked, which is huge. It's a massive number that have been occupying Japan. So we bombed the fuck out of it. Sorry for the language, people. We bombed it to smithereens with nuclear warheads unnecessarily after they had already begun back-channel negotiations to surrender at the very end of World War II. We still bombed them as sort of a show of flexing and a really message to Russia to let them be known that a new strategy had been released onto the world, premised around mutually assured destruction and this idea of hegemony of those who wield the monopoly on nuclear warheads. So you had that, and then immediately we started occupying Japan and haven't really left. And people forget that. And then South Korea, we immediately went to war with South Korea in an unnecessary war. There's still 28,000 troops based there. And
there are, I'm sorry, there are currently 52,852 U.S. military personnel stationed just in Japan. But it doesn't even include South Korea or any of the other places in the Southeast. The
danger that this causes, as well as the financial waste and sucking of American financial resources into maintaining this, is insane. It's so insane. So if, like you said, this could be an excuse to really drive the building up of a national military for Japan, then that's good. And similarly, I would say, on that note, people could say, well, that still doesn't change the policy of the war plan of military encirclement of a NATO growth in the Pacific. However, there is a what was her name? Seme, the Prime Minister, Sene
Takaichi. I think it's how you say it.
She did come in originally. Everyone thought that she was going to be an anti-China hawk, but she immediately came in, and her first address that she gave publicly was to say that she would not support any U.S. trade war against China. She wouldn't be an instrument of U.S. economic pressure against China. She called for better relations with China at the same time. And you have the discussion now around setting up a China, Japan, South Korea common currency area as well. So that's another thing that integrates these countries into an idea of mutual cooperation, instead of going along with this NATO plan of using Japan like they used Ukraine as a proxy for the destruction, the undermining of a rival. In this case, it would be China, not Russia, but it's the same policy. Or Taiwan, frankly, same policy was there too, where these countries would be otherwise just seen as disposable assets, as Ukraine has. That would kill millions of South Koreans and Japanese, instead actually seeing something that would benefit both the China-Japan relations, as well as Japan-US relations at the same time. So could be, because people are wondering, like, who is Japan trying to really be friends with? Is it the US? Is it China? Maybe it's both. Maybe there's something actually much more harmonious going on under the surface, perhaps. Also, on a negative cautious point, because I'm not 100% sold on the white pill, on a negative cautious point thing, perhaps there's some threats to, for China being given to China, saying, look, we'll give you these things, we'll release some pressure on your back door if you perhaps give up on this BRICS idea, give up on the idea of a global Belt and Road Initiative as the framework for an alternative security economic architecture, and we'll just leave you alone a little bit and give you some peace in your own backyard. So, there's that aspect of it too. I can't let go of that hypothesis as well.
It's very fair to look at it bicamerally. Burning Bright did point out that she had some very strong words for like the feminist movement, basically, and like just women in general. I think she said something along the lines of like women shouldn't be in positions of power, which is like an ironic statement for her to make. But when you look at, like Chris Paul's pointing this out, when you look at the archetype for what they use to overthrow governments. You have Marina Corona Machado in Venezuela, but then you also have, I don't know, have you heard of this woman? This is I can't even pronounce this woman's name, but is Svetlana. She went mega viral yesterday. Sikhanuskaya.
No.
I don't know, but this is what she's a 37-year-old woman living in Lithuania. Okay, she's Belarusian allegedly, but they're calling her the president-elect of Belarus. They're saying that she's actually the legitimate, kind of like Maria Corona Machado is the legitimate, in their eyes, the legitimate leader of Venezuela. They're saying that this woman is the legitimate leader of Belarus, and that Lukashenko is a dictator, and Lukashenko needs to be overthrown, and that NATO and Lithuania are going to overthrow Lukashenko and install this woman. And she's like putting out like talking points saying, here's what I'm going to do my first day in power. Like, I'm going to XYZ. I don't know where this woman came from, but this it's a copy paste. Like, you copy paste, like, all right, here is the Eastern European version. Here is the spicy Latina version. Like, they're probably going to have an African version that's going to come out next, like an African model that's going to come out next year to replace what's his name in Burkina Faso, Captain Traore. Like, this is almost laugh out loud funny the way that they do this, where the American version, of course, is Kamala Harris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all the same cookie cutter mold, eh? Like, they went to the
Claudia
exact
Scheinfeld in Mexico, right?
Well, it's yeah. You had it with what's his name? Who was the first Venezuelan regime change puppet? Guaido.
Yeah, Guaido.
Yeah, you just hear the way they speak. It's Obama. It's the exact same school of rhetoric, the same messaging, the same tropes, human rights language, and they all are going to the same workshops and then being deployed to different parts of the world. And Lithuania is weird too, right? Like, Lithuania is such a tiny little country. We often like neglect it, but they seem to be behind a lot of these Gladio stay behind operations that have been serving as beachheads for overthrowing, especially Eastern European countries. So her presence in Lithuania is interesting. Let's just say that we could do a whole show on that in the future. Actually, we might want to bring on Kit Clarenberg.
Okay.
He's done some really good work on Gladio, Lithuania, and the whole thing.
That would be interesting. I forget exactly which country it was, but a lot of these Europe was basically destroyed by these young. It's like that exact model over the past 10 years. These young women, and many of them are very beautiful, who come in, are elected, and then they're the ones who implemented like the destruction of Europe by like deindustrializing the country. And then there was that one who I can't remember if she was the leader of Lithuania or it was one of the Scandinavian countries, where she was basically exposed as just being like a floozy. Like, she was going out to like nightclubs and just partying and just being and like doing like cocaine and stuff while she was supposed to be prime minister and like during COVID. And it turned out she was just like a floozy, and I think she was just a front, obviously, for something else, like some organization that was behind her that was actually doing but she was a like beautiful woman, so like all the weak men, like all the simps who are going to go out there and vote and support it because they like, oh, a beautiful face, a pretty face, and then of course like women get told the whole feminism trope, and it's like, all right, that's how you capture both sides of the like both demographics, and then these people end up coming in and just totally deindustrializing the country, and now Europe is literally facing like an economic apocalypse because of what they've done over the past 10 years. So on that note, the last thing we'll hit real quick is just South Korea, because South Korea like falls into this, not that mold because it's not a female leader, but President Lee, because we covered the poop balloon psyop between Kim Jong-un and President Yoon, which resulted in Yoon being arrested, charged with treason. And now the stories are that he's laying around in his underwear on the prison floor and refuses to get up for his interrogation sessions, which is kind of funny. But that's what the headline is. I don't know. And then when Lee gets elected back in June, the the like entire Western media, not just like Con Inc., not just Fox News, but even like Steve Bannon, General Flynn, like all these people are like opining because, or like they're all like clutching their pearls because they're like, President Lee's a communist and he's gonna betray us. He's gonna steer South Korea into the influence of China, and like bye South Korea. Like there goes South Korea. And then of course President Lee comes out and talks about how much he loves Donald Trump. He immediately signs a very, very favorable trade deal with Trump, where it's 15% tariff for all South Korean goods coming to the U.S., 0% tariff for all goods going to South Korea from the U.S., and then like $350 billion investment into the U.S. economy, hundreds of billions of dollars of energy purchases from South Korea from the U.S. So I think that trade deal was described as like capitulation. It's very similar to the trade deal that the EU signed with Trump as well. And then Trump announces another trade breakthrough yesterday, or today rather, I guess, with President Lee, and dramatic progress helped break tariff impasse. And so like maybe we'll get into all the details of this next week, because there's a lot to like unpack that we're not going to have time to do here. Absolutely. But you have this. There is one little video that I want to play of Trump, like Tim talking about Modi, because this kind of gets back to the WrestleMania thing. So let me.
And Pakistan. So I'm doing a trade deal with India, and I have great respect and love. As you know, for Prime Minister Modi, we have a great relationship. Likewise, the Prime Minister of Pakistan is a great guy, and the Field Marshal, they have a Field Marshal. You know why he's a Field Marshal? He's a great fighter. He really is. He's a great guy, too. And so I know them all. And I'm reading that 7 planes were shot down. They're going at it, and they're really starting to go. And it's a big thing. These are 2 nuclear nations, and they're really going at it. And I called Prime Minister Modi. I said, we can't make a trade deal with you. No, we must make a trade deal. I said, no, we can't. You're starting a war with Pakistan. We're not going to do it. And then I called Pakistan. I said, we're not going to do trade with you because you're fighting with India. And, 2 nuclear nations. And they said, no, you should let us fight. They both said that. They're warring. They're strong people, I'll tell you what. Prime Minister Modi is the nicest looking guy. He says, and he looks like you'd like to have your father, like, he's a killer. He's tough as hell. No, we will fight. I said, whoa, this is the same man that I know. But after a little while, and they're good people, and after literally 2 days, they called up and they said, we understand, and they stopped fighting. How is that? Isn't that amazing? Now, you think Biden would have done that? I don't think so. Most people wouldn't have thought of it, but,
So I think it's funny that he's like calling out Modi. He's like, Modi's presents himself as like, he always does like he does. I'd call him the hugger in chief. I think he seems like a very, like he's very handsy. He likes to hold people's hands. He likes to, he probably slaps. I think he does a lot of grab ass, in a very respectful way, not in a creepy way. But then, of course, Trump's like, he's a killer. Like, this guy is a killer. And he does the imitation of him. I think that, again, this is the theater that Trump is kind of helping to orchestrate, where a lot of these countries get to maintain their dignity and their respect because he's describing them as strong warring nations, but they're all coming to the table because for a greater good and a common cause. This sets the stage for tomorrow, because tomorrow in South Korea, Trump's going to meet with Xi. And they signed the TikTok deal, I think, yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was last night I saw, because, they're a day, like 12 hours, 18 hours ahead of us, whatever it is. So they signed the TikTok deal, I think, last night, today, whatever it is. And then tomorrow they're going to do, I think there's going to be some big developments from this meeting with Xi. And then, of course, the really exciting news is this news that Trump is going to extend his trip because he's going to meet with Kim Jong-un. And
is that verified? That's verified?
I haven't seen anything like concrete about like where it's going to happen. I think all of that's going to be played very close to the chest. But Trump says he would extend his trip to Asia to meet Kim Jong-un. He's like, yeah, I'm here in South Korea. Like, I'm right here. Like, let's just do it. He already said at the beginning of September, right before the UN meeting, that he really wants to meet with Kim Jong-un. But by the end of the year, he's like, yeah, I think we'll definitely meet by the end of the year. This is the opportunity. He's in South Korea. North Korea is right there. I think what might happen is we might see Kim Jong-un come to South Korea, which would be a hell of a symbolic gesture for the supreme leader of North Korea to travel to Seoul to South Korea and meet with the U.S. president. I mean, that is like the most clear-cut signal you're going to get the Korean War is over. I mean, I would assume that the supreme leader is classified as a war criminal by the South Korean government, considering they're still technically at war with one another. So I think we might see Kim Jong, and President Lee has been very sympathetic to Kim Jong-un, very sympathetic to negotiations with North Korea, which is one of the reasons that the war hawks, that the Republicans hate him. So I think that we might see this happen, and I think it's probably going to happen on Friday. I think tomorrow we're going to get Xi, and then Friday or maybe Saturday we're going to get Kim Jong-un. Maybe Trump flies to North Korea. I don't know, but I think it would be a much bigger gesture, which is why I think it's being played close to the chest. Is they don't want to put it out there where it's going to happen, but I think it's going to be Kim Jong-un coming to South Korea.
All right, you heard it here first, guys. All right, Gordon is hypothesizing that Kim Jong-un would actually be coming down. So we'll see. We're going to find out pretty soon, and it'll give us a lot to talk about next week. Before we round out the show, there's two ads that still need to be read. One is soft disclosure tallow and a lot more, and then another one is a reminder for GART. So for those who haven't gotten their online tickets, I don't know if there's still live tickets that are for sale, but definitely people can tune in online. Check these upcoming two ads, and then I'll have something myself to say as well. So first up, here's soft disclosure.
Before skincare went synthetic, people used something simple, something real: tallow. Grass-fed and finished beef tallow is packed with vitamins A, D, E, and K. Nutrients your skin actually knows what to do with. It locks in moisture, restores elasticity, and defends against winter dryness. No water, no preservatives, and no BS. Unlike plant oils or chemical creams, tallow mimics your skin's own structure. Elbows, hands, knees, post-shave, anywhere your skin's crying for real moisture. Perfect for gifting or keeping your own skin soft when the cold hits. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code Badlands for 15% off. Ancient care, modern truth.
Soft disclosure. All right. That's number one. Number two is GART. Here we are.
Here on the sun-kissed shores of Cocoa Beach, where the ocean meets the horizon, the Great American Restoration Tour continues on November 6th through the 9th, 2025. Badlands Media gathers patriots like you, not just to talk, but to rebuild. From truth-telling panels to unbreakable bonds, we're restoring the soul of our nation, one conversation at a time. This is the heart of the Space Coast, where the rockets defy gravity and dreams touch the stars. Feel the thunder of innovation that powers America forward. Together, we're not just healing the past, we're blasting off into a brighter tomorrow, a future where truth prevails, families thrive, and America leads once more. Join us in Cocoa Beach. Get your seat or your virtual stream pass now at badlandsmedia.tv/events. Launch is imminent, and you don't want to miss this liftoff.
All right. Yeah, I wish I could be there for that one. It looks great. And again, Florida, Cocoa Beach looks like an amazing sunny experience, and it's getting very cold where I am. So alas, I'm going to miss this one. But I'll be. Oh, sorry, go on.
I have breaking news, actually.
Oh, go on.
We have a post from Gustavo Petro about a new alliance has formed, a coffee alliance between Colombian coffee and Arabic coffee. One of my
the war is over. The conflict is finally over.
One of my professors in history professors in college was like I don't know what the word is, but he was like a certified coffee expert or whatever. Like he would like go to conferences about this, and he was always talking about how Arabic coffee was like the greatest thing ever. And now you have Gustavo Petro talking about an alliance between the Arab coffee and Colombian coffee.
If we can get some Ethiopian coffee on that list as well, like we can get a Ethiopian, Colombian Arabic alliance,
this is the real sovereign alliance here. Starbucks better watch its ass, because we got the Sovereign Alliance coffee brand coming out.
No one's gonna be sleeping on the job. No. All right. Cool. All right. So one last thing. I just want to ask people if they're watching this right now. Obviously, if you're watching it, you're watching it. This is a new show. So I've been hosting this thing now for a few months, and it's a fun experiment. It's called the Pluralia's Dialogos. So with the Pluralia, they host the multipolar summits a couple times a year. And Alex Craner has talked about that with us on the show in the past. So, I've got some fun guests once every 2 weeks, and it's an experiment. So I'm trying to get more and more people to check this thing out and grow the channel. So if people are able to subscribe to Pluralia Dialogos and just follow it, the next episode is going to be this coming Sunday, dealing with, obviously, the APEC Summit. A lot of the stuff we talked about, we're going to talk about with a couple of guests. So that's one thing. And just a reminder, check out the documentary, The Arctic Theater for War, Theater for War or Global Cooperation. That's in the description box under this video, or the comment section under this video. And I guess we gone through more than I expected, and for longer than I expected, but that's okay too. It was fun, as it always is. So Gordon, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for joining us on this week's Breaking History, and we'll see you again next week. Take care.
Yes, we will see you next week.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.